What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer. I almost forgot my own name. That would have been great.
It's been a long day, man.
Kinda, yeah. We're moving into some office space. I've been telling you, we made one big move towards it happening, and we're actually recording from the new studio. And Kevin and I actually in the future want to do video portion of it. We just don't really have a setup where that's even like remotely interesting. But soon we will, and we'll be able to do that. And you guys won't have to just see like motion video. But
face reveal at 500K.
We both.
You guys know what we look like.
No, but also I always forget to mention this, but you can listen to this podcast not on YouTube. It's not exclusive here. There's a Blue Milk Boys podcast that's been around forever. I mean, since the original. Because this channel used to be called Arky Culture, and then I merged with Blue Milk Boys.
A bunch of lore. You guys are getting the lore right now. The Blue Milk Boys lore.
Yeah, we used to do movie reviews on Arky Culture, but we merged the brands because they're pretty much the same thing a long time ago. And now this is the main Blue Milk Boys channel.
Yeah, we don't call it a podcast just to self-aggrandize. It's actually on all the podcasting platforms.
This all started as a podcast. We did Mandalorian stuff. That's where Blue Milk Boys comes from.
Yeah, one day I'll. It's not a story that
I know this is a lore episode. No, but we're doing another Anime Monday. You can listen to this on the podcasting networks if you're on the go and you want to listen to this, or listen to all of our old stuff. We reviewed all of the Star Wars episodes. A lot. We had a good following back in that time, and then the pandemic hit and everything like that. But I also wanted to mention, hit us up in the comment section if there's something you guys want us to do for Anime Monday, Movie Monday. I love my
We'll watch it. Like, we'll watch stuff. If you guys tell us to watch stuff and you have like a genuine, earnest recommendation, I wouldn't be above reviewing it for the content.
And we're doing another Tattoo Thursday soon because I'm literally getting a tattoo, and that's going to be content, of course.
Hell yeah.
And other than that, we might do an anime tattoo video as well. I was kind of interested in doing that. I like Tattoo Thursday. Lots of great content coming out all the time now, but it's all supported through YuGiOh. You guys know that. I'll never diverge away from that. It's just I like to have other content. I think it makes the channel very unique. I don't want to be like every other YuGiTuber where I'm just doing my rotation of bandless prediction. I do bandless predictions, but you know what I'm saying, like this is my tier list for decks, and then it just kind of goes on and on. Quick. I always try to do weird stuff, even with YuGiOh, and hopefully you guys enjoy that. And we're so close to 500 subs, by the way. A goal that I never thought would be possible when I first started doing this, and we're almost there, guys. So thank you for the support. Hit me up, Cowboy for Game. I want to be on your podcast. You might help me get there. I'm doing a public shout out, but okay.
What anime are we talking today, Spence?
Mob Psycho.
Mob Psycho 100, yeah.
Yeah, so you got me into this. You were watching it one day, and I'm like, I kind of heard of it. I didn't know how interested I would be. We watched the first episode, and ever since that, I think we went through the entire series.
We kind of speed ran it, yeah. We were hooked from the first moment. So, for the uninitiated, Mob Psycho is made by One, who is also the progenitor of One Punch Man. So if you're if you are into that wildly popular anime, I think the first question is, would you recommend this? And I think, would you recommend Mob Psycho 100?
I think it's a great introductory anime series. It's
general,
short, first of all. The first season's like 10 episodes, so you can go through the first season very quickly. And the second season, I think, is like 24. It's a little longer. The season's done. Like, the series is done. You don't have to worry about, like, rebirth series.
The story is very rudimentary, very relatable. Simple. It's very it's a very simple concept that they execute very, very well. It's hard to kind of talk about what Mob Psycho is really about. It's a shonen. I wouldn't say a typical shonen anime, but it has those elements. It's got really, like, one of the things I actually found most underrated about Mob Psycho when we watched it was just like, the animation is incredible. And it's funny because One has like a background of just being a crappy, crude artist, but some of the set pieces for this show are mind-blowing, dude. Some of the action set pieces are insane.
And we'll actually we always say this, but it's spoilers. Because I don't want to limit ourselves the way we talk about the show.
Here's the thing, man. I think
like, once you know that you should watch it, stop the podcast and come back to it.
There's more to the experience of watching or consuming a story than just understanding what happens in the plot. You know, like, especially with something like Mob Psycho that I personally think is incredibly layered and incredibly well written, and there's a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces in that show, and so the simple plot, and even then the plot isn't anything crazy to where there's this like these massive kind of events that you need to be protected from spoiler wise. So
it's not really the point. Even the final conflict. Okay, so the frame of mind I want to contextualize this in is it the perfect miniseries? We can both agree this is not the greatest anime of all time. It's actually going to be close to the top of my list. If you guys have been following kind of our lineage of videos, you'll know that I'm thinking about getting a leg sleeve with all different anime panels, and I've pretty much already dedicated like some space on my leg for this show.
I've been getting inked, man. Like, and Mob Psycho was easily part of that because that was like one of the things. Okay, so for the uninitiated, Mob Psycho was about a 12-year-old psychic boy with psychic powers, right?
Pretty simple, yeah.
He meets this con artist, a psychic, but he's a con artist. He's looking for guidance in this dude named Regan, and Regan realizes that Mob is for real. Like, he's got for real powers, and so he kind of strings him along, but also at the same time is teaching him very valuable lessons in humility and stuff like that. And the whole kind of show is centered around this idea of deconstructing kind of the commentary of Mob Psycho is really good. The message is kind of trying to deconstruct the idea that, you know, the world revolves around you. You know, I feel like a lot of us grow up conditioned to think that way just throughout the various media we consume and the lessons that we get taught by you know, the stuff that we watch. And it has bred not a generation of people like on some we live in a society stuff, but like I feel like it has bred this kind of sense of entitlement in people, in that everyone is their own special little kind of, not to be like snowflakey or whatever like that, but
I think the great
that everyone is kind of like the protagonist of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone thinks that like
this is so true.
Yeah, everyone kind of. What I love about Mob Psycho is that it deconstructs the idea that everyone believes that they are the protagonist of the entire world, or that they are meant for some greater destiny. And the biggest thing that Mob Psycho taught me personally was that even you may have that, like you may be burdened with this great talent or responsibility, or you may be special in some way, but sometimes you're not, and more than likely you're not going to be like that kind of guy. And that's liberating in a way. I found that liberating in a way. And the way that Mob Psycho kind of positions that idea is supposed to be liberating. It's that, you know, people who are, you know, deemed special for one reason or another, you know, throughout their whole lives or anything like that, those people are kind of burdened with that kind of, you know, whatever makes them special. Like, they kind of have to carry that around. When you're not special, when you're an ordinary person, you can be whoever you want to be, and you can live a fulfilled life. And that's kind of what I ended up taking away from those 50 episodes. And it was a really, really uplifting. It kind of was like a turning point for me, honestly.
It's just, the thing about Mob Psycho is the whole show is about these special powers you have, but they're just representative of something that makes you. It's not really the point. The point of the show is it's wrapped around these cool action scenes, and that's part of why you watch the show, because we like big boom, or, you know, very simple stuff. But
monkey brain.
That stuff just represents like the point they're trying to get across, that you may have these like special abilities, but you still got to wake up in the morning, you got to pay your bills, like all those kinds of things. And I think in our society, you know, I'm talking about, like, I sound like the Joker, but, you know, it's these like expectations. It's okay to just be normal and be a part of society. You don't have to be the main character of everything you have going on in your life. There's something beautiful about the mundane part of just going about your day. And that's only one part of the show, right? Because then you have the main character, and it's also about making friends, and it's so funny. There's so many. It's
about seeing people, you know, kind of for who they are, not whatever value they
attribute to themselves,
or not attribute to themselves, or however they perceive, you know, the what their contribution to society as a whole is. It's just viewing people through the lens of, okay, I'm a person, you're a person. Like, what can we find common ground wise? What can we do to make this all a better world for everyone to live in? You know what I mean? And I think deconstructing the whole idea of just the world has to bend to me because I'm special. Like, that's it's hard to hear when someone tells you that it's like the world doesn't revolve around you. It's very easy to brush that off and be like, this person's being a hater or whatever, right?
Yeah,
but
the hater hate.
like it when you can earnestly kind of look beyond that and kind of think outside of yourself in that way, it's a really liberating experience. And I think what Mob Psycho taught me how to do is to really understand that whatever I believe about myself, that's probably whatever you believe about yourself is the one measurable and definitive kind of quality that you can have, and you can't project that on other people or anything like that. And so just seeing Mob kind of being able to reject that and accept that what he wants, like he can earnestly want things outside of the things that, because Mob is special and everyone else around Mob is trying to comprehend how special he is. And grapple with the fact that because Mob is the way he is, they themselves are not special. And that's why his one homie, like, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but his blonde homie, he's a psychic too, but he realizes he's nowhere near Mob's level. And he learns like some real genuine humility as a result of that. And I think that's great character. That kind of growth it's why I love anime so much, because those are the kinds of stories I feel we were shielded from growing up, just consuming American media for the most part. Because like I said, there's a lot of archetypes in American media, and they rely very heavily on those, and they work. But that doesn't mean these other stories, aren't pertinent to the lives of, developing, growing children. And so I really wish I had gotten an anime. Been able to see an anime like Mob Psycho earlier in my life, to be honest.
And the great part about this show, because we just talked about how everyone views Mob, but then you have the perspective of Mob, who views everyone as more special than him.
Exactly.
Even though he technically is the most powerful, like, being in the world, whatever the case may be. But he views these great traits out of everybody. Like, he's jealous and he wants to... He does physical exercise with his gym bros.
The Body Improvement Club is probably... Okay, so we can talk about the Body Improvement Club.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite kind of supporting characters in anime. They're just... Dude, they literally... It's like I said, Mob Psycho is very deconstructive about these really generally accepted ideas about what we should strive for in our lives. And, physical fitness and health is obviously a large component of things like that. So you have the Body Improvement Club. And what do you generally think of when you think of a body? You think of a bunch of gym bros, right? Like jarheads, like guys who meatheads, exactly. But the Body Improvement Club, like literally, like it's not really. It's about improving their bodies, but like they're not. I feel like gym culture is a thing. Gym culture has manifested itself 1,000 different ways over, and there now like a person's personality can be a gym bro. Yeah. But the Body Improvement Club is legitimately just they're Mob's friends. They're Mob's friends, and they
accept him
they accept him because they know that Mob is genuinely dedicated to improving his body.
It doesn't matter that he's smaller.
And they will ride for, and they don't care. Like, and that's like that is so wholesome to me, and that really kind of. It's such a, like I said, it's such a deconstruction. It's such a subversion of what you come to expect when you watch a television show. You know what I mean? Pretty much every time you see a gym bro in like an American TV show, he's going to be the traditional gym bro.
Just dumb and doesn't really care about others other than himself, but
just only care, like, it's very self-absorbed and all. Like the Body Improvement Club, legitimately, they care about each other, So that's why the relationships that the characters form with one another is really genuine.
I appreciate all of the character interactions, and what I love the most, and it alludes to it at the very end of the show, it's about Mob and Regan, this very special relationship, which is the core of the show throughout all of it, is that Mob knew from Dizzle Tizzle, like, that Regan didn't know how to do anything.
Upon meeting him, that Regan was a con man.
Like, Regan really thought for a long time, because their relationship spanned, like, before, I guess, the events of the first episode. He covered for him a lot of the times, like, oh, you can't do this because of this and all that. And you kind of thought, like, is Mob really that dumb? Like, no, of course he's not.
Of course not. Mob's not a gullible person. Obviously, Mob has a lot of growing to do and, like, a lot of, like... That's what I'm saying. Mob is a very... As far as a protagonist, it's crazy that a godlike kid can be as relatable as he is, you know what I mean? Because Mob struggles. Mob is a mortal man. He struggles with the same things that you and I do, despite having these godlike abilities. And so... when he's able to recognize that even though Regan is blowing smoke, in his direction and it isn't actually a psychic, he's able to understand that the lessons that Regan's trying to teach him are genuine because he genuinely cares about making sure that Mob is a good person.
He spoke to his humanity.
Exactly.
He understood the value of being just a regular dude.
And that's how Mob is able to be like, yeah, it doesn't even matter that you're not a psychic. I know that you're a good dude. And Regan is a good dude. Regan is one of my favorite characters.
Everybody, he has faults, but I think that's also what makes the show so good. I think when you have some of these classic animes, and I'm talking like Master Roshi, that character has...
It's very tropey, like archetypal.
He's never changed his development. He never had a moment of weakness where he looked really bad. He's always the perfect master that is even keel through all of it. Mm-hmm. And in this show, you see people make legitimate mistakes, and I think that speaks to real life too. Is that you can have one of the most virtuous people, but in certain moments, they're not going to be these perfect angels.
It leads to a greater conversation about what relationship should we have with art and media. Is like should we have escapist media or anything like that? That's a greater conversation. But I'm saying like you should be able to, I feel like, draw lessons from the things that you watch, and Mob Psycho is written responsibly in that way, in being able to draw those lessons, and it's also hilarious. Like I laugh out loud watching that show.
No,
like some of the some of the comedic bits and timing, it's fantastic. We were talking about Ava last time, and we were talking about how, like, I don't know, I wouldn't particularly recommend Ava to everybody.
That's not sometimes your first anime.
Sometimes if you don't there are certain things you have to be in tune with a certain aspect of yourself for Ava to make sense. I feel like, and I feel like if you're shut off from the parts of yourself that deal with loneliness and insecurity and all of that stuff, if you're not really in tune with those parts of your psyche, Ava's a lot of the bigger themes of Ava are going to be lost on you. But with Mob Psycho, I think it is almost a universal message that I feel like everyone can, just humility and humanity and appealing to other people and understanding that we all have to share this world, and we should all kind of do what we can to lift each other up. And that's a great message that I think anyone who's willing to listen can and should hear. And so you should definitely watch Mob Psycho.
Yeah, there's a couple parts of the show that I want to discuss with you, and it's a short series, so you're gonna have to cut a few corners. But I'm gonna tell you 2 parts about the show that I did not like, and I'm curious to see if you feel the same way. Number 1, I did not like that his brother got powers. Period. I don't know why that needed to happen. The beginning of the show focuses on how Mob views his brother as like everything he wants him to be on the student council, good grades, he's popular, and then he eventually resents Mob because he has these powers that he doesn't. And there's a good 2 episodes in there where it explores that and like kind of having him to accept those things.
Yeah,
and then there's like he's got powers.
Yeah,
now.
you had a kind of like a good kind of the grass isn't always greener moment between them. Where they kind of were able to understand each other. Mob is able to understand that Mob's whole arc is understanding that popularity is not fulfilling in any real meaningful way.
Right.
And, Mob's little brother gets to realize that he has superpowers. It's fine. I don't think it really detracts from the overall narrative. Mob is the main character, and I don't think that takes away from his... but yeah, I probably could have done without that. It felt kind of weird. It did kind of feel like weird that he still had the powers, because it did feel kind of like ambiguous whether or not he would actually have the powers or keep the powers or anything like that. Because Dimple possesses.
I thought it was going to be like, oh, Dimple gave him his powers, and that's fine. I think that's a good combo. But I just really thought
that he had latent the issue was that he had latent powers that hadn't been awakened or whatever, which was kind of lame to me. I get that.
Those episodes were special to me, and realizing that. The way I read it was there's going to be some things that you simply cannot do no matter how hard you want to do them, and we all have to realize that at some point in life. I get it, and it makes more sense later on the show for his brother to have powers, so otherwise he doesn't really have a purpose in being there, I guess, in reality.
His brother, I think it's still they still use it in service of the story, which I think is okay. So at the end of the day, it's fine. But I think to better drive that singular point home of the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and there are some dreams that it is literally it's a waste, not a waste of time, or it's your energy is better spent doing other things. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so if they could have nailed that point home if Mob's brother didn't have powers for the rest of the series. But I think as far as just a 50 episode, just essentially a mini series in my opinion, that's an equivalent, because the alternative is JoJo or Naruto or One Piece where they go on forever, right?
Part number 2 that I didn't necessarily like was the ending villain. It just felt kind of, all right, last 3 episodes, let's wrap this motherfucker up.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's horrible, but obviously,
because I think that the finale of the first season definitely kind of melds the underlying themes as well as like the main plot. Those are woven together really well, and those themes aren't as apparent in the ending stages of the show. But like I said, like I think it's still where you have this. I don't think it gets detracted. You know what I mean? Like, definitely we could have nailed these points home a little harder. But I think they're still there for anyone who's willing to look for them. You know, it's not hard to
the
really.
message is never.
You don't have
lost.
to dig too deep in Mob Psycho to kind of get the point. You know what I mean?
It's pretty simple.
You know, if it doesn't, we're chimpanzees, so we like to be beaten over the head with these things. But if you're not a chimpanzee, if you're smarter than us, which is likely,
very easy, very low bar.
Those points will probably be made pretty clear and apparent to you when you watch it.
I guess the boss really isn't meant to be a person. It's barely even meant to be a person. It's really just.
It's a symbol. Like, all of these things they're all allegorical. They're all they're supposed to parallel real life in some form or fashion. And so, yeah, he's supposed to be the corporate overlord, pretty much.
Well, basically what it means if you're obsessed with power and money, like that's what it could lead to, where you may have all of these powers, but what is it really worth in the end?
Yeah,
that's the way.
And that's kind of
it.
Yeah, and we've seen that story before, and we've seen it, but I think you still get that animation
because we also
the animation is just
because the alternative to me is because I would legitimately believe the perfect 2-season arc or like 2-part arc is Dragon Ball Z, where Goku is an adult and then he ends up killing Frieza. To me, that is the perfect. You cannot wrap.
So you go from the Saiyan saga to the Frieza saga.
That's
and if
it.
You just stop Dragon Ball Z right there. That would have been it. Like that would have been just.
See,
coded.
I would call that a miniseries, but then we're also talking about significantly more episodes than Mob Psycho did.
Oh,
so if you view it
it's
in
like
that
300 episodes. Yeah.
If you view that, I don't know if it's that much,
Or
but
like
if you view it
100.
in that lens, like obviously, if you only have 35 episodes to work with. Yeah, you're probably gonna have to make the villain just Mr. Boss Man.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like if you had time to flesh these things out, you probably could have created a more compelling scenario. But I appreciate just short to the point. Here's what I have to say, and I'm gonna say, and you pick up the pieces out. I love these short 50-episode animes.
Code Geass, you could say.
Code Geass, Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Well, it's not about the actual.
You're watching Fire Force. Fire Force is one of those too.
Fire Force. We're definitely doing an episode on that, man. Woo! Love myself some Fire Force.
I love that. I love just being able to sit down like pretty much for a week, knock out the 50 episodes, and then you're like, okay, that was my experience, and I had of the shows that we did that with, like we just talked about.
Media.
Yeah, it's just you knock them out and then you move on with your life.
I don't need something forever, man. I really don't. I appreciate Dragon Ball Z and Super and everything that's done, but
if you could go back and if they were just like, hey, we're gonna re-release Dragon Ball on a weekly basis again, starting from the very beginning, I wouldn't. Absolutely not. I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
So anything?
I can't do it.
Yeah. Anything else from the show that pressing on your mind that you wanted to talk about for Mob Psycho?
Oh, wow. It really did. It really did change kind of my perspective on things, and we got locked up for a year, so everyone had ample time to sit down and think, and this was one of those shows that helped me have a come to Jesus moment. So I will always look back fondly on Mob Psycho 100. It's definitely one of my favorites.
I just enjoy them for how you can kind of just remember the whole series at once too.
Very memorable. It's just it stays in your head.
Moments, and you don't have to think too hard about the story. It's more just about
the characters are all like pretty likable. It's not hard for you to get into the series, man. So if you have been looking for a reason to watch it, if TikTok has been bugging you about watching Mob Psycho because it's a 10 out of 10 anime, like that's the reason I started watching it, is because I have had a couple friends who had watched it, but I would scroll TikTok and every time they'd be like, yeah, Mob Psycho is that gas.
So
they were right. They were right.
I guess we'll try to conclude this with, is it the perfect mini-series?
So I was getting into it, we've watched a lot of those in the last year, of just those 50 episodes. So you're putting it up with like these 2-season animes. You got like Code Geass, you got Death Note, you got Iron Blooded Orphan. Iron Blooded Orphans is my
Geass
favorite.
has to be in your top anime.
Code Geass is
No,
for sure.
but
Well, that's like
well,
Code Geass is it. That's probably the one I'm looking at. Is like, do I like Mob Psycho better than Code Geass? And it's like they're very different, you know.
Very rarely does a short story like Code Geass end the way that it does, where you're just I can't think of a better
Code
ending
Geass
for
is
this.
fantastic. Very like the drama element of Code Geass is amazing.
There's more life lessons to learn from Mob Psycho.
But
than
Mob
Code
Psycho
Geass.
is a great watch. I just enjoyed myself, and I had like a smile on my face when I was watching it. And so I'd probably like, if I wanted to just go back and do that, I could do it, and I would feel fulfilled in the same exact way. So I'd probably go with I think so. I think Mob Psycho is probably the best 50 episode run that I've personally experienced.
I'm not sure how I feel about it just quite yet. It is very much up there for me. I don't know if it's the perfect one, but it's a great one. And if you like anime, obviously I think we can both say yes, you should watch.
You should
this.
definitely watch Mob
If
Psycho.
you're an anime fan, if you're not, check it out, man. This might be the thing that gets you really into the whole.
That's what I'm
idea.
saying. Yeah, like I said, there's something that everyone can take away from Mob Psycho, and also it's just awesome. The animation's amazing. It's hilarious. There are plenty of reasons, so you should just go ahead, just go watch it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was an Anime Monday. By the way, for you guys listening, I know most of you aren't subscribed who listen to my videos. I have the analytics, so I'm pointing at you through this microphone. So hit that darn subscribe button. Let's get to 500. Thank you guys for the support, though, in all seriousness. We really appreciate it. We love doing this alternative content. And that's pretty much it for Anime Monday. Look out for another podcast tomorrow that I'm springing up on Kevin in just a second.
Oh, God.
It's going to be great. But
Yeah, we're doing a surprise pod tomorrow, and I have no idea what it's going to be.
okay, guys, thank you so much. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.